Welcome. It's week 6 of quarter 2. We're almost at the end of our semester. That makes me kind of sad. It's time for YouTube activity, and we're studying a band called Kansas. A band called Kansas. There's also a state called Kansas. It's right about there. It's right in the middle of the United States. Here's where North Dakota is. We're right there. Kansas is kind of in the middle. So it's a little warmer than where we are, but it's pretty similar to North Dakota too. So Kansas is a really cool band. They've got two really good guitar players, and we're going to be watching them and listening to them and learning about them today. First, a few dad jokes. All right, what is the scariest what is the scariest plant in the forest? Bamboo. Boo. Scary, get it? All right. What is a tree's favorite drink? A tree's favorite drink. Root beer. That one's not bad. Final dad joke. What did the dad volcano say to his son? What did the dad volcano say to his son? I love you. I love you. All right, let's learn some more about Kansas. By the way, I'm wearing my Kansas shirt. It's kind of hard to tell because the font is really artistic. Kansas is that kind of a band. They're really artistic and really creative. Anyway, it says Kansas. This is one of their most famous albums called Point of No Return. Anyway, let's learn about Kansas. Here's a picture of Kansas back in the day. They started in 1970 in the state of Kansas. They're from the state of Kansas. That's what they looked like back then. Lots of big hair. I think that guy kind of in the middle kind of looks like the giant, what's his name? Hagrid or something like that from Harry Potter. Anyway, that's what they looked like back in the day. And they're still going. You know, they started in 1970 and they still tour. They've taken some breaks over the years, but essentially they still go do concerts. Here's what they look like now. Only a couple of the guys are originals, but some of these guys have been in the band for like 20 years or 30 years, you know, so they weren't originally in the band, but they're just as much a part of the band as some of the guys who were originals, but then maybe quit after 10 years or something like that. That's just incredible. 50 years. They've been a band for 50 years. You'll notice that there's a guy holding a violin. That's kind of unusual for a rock and roll band. Actually, the guy in the last slide that kind of looked like the guy from Harry Potter, he was the violin player back then, and this is the violin player now. I believe his name is Dave. Anyway, they're looking a little older, but they're still going. And I've actually seen them, I think, 4 or 5 times over the years, and man, they sound so good. All right, so they were going to have a concert in southern North Dakota at a casino called Dakota Magic Casino. This would have been 10 years ago. And I thought, hey, why don't I try to get a hold of these guys? What if I sent them an email and asked them if they could, you know, come to class and teach my kids to play this really famous guitar song called Dust in the Wind? You know, never hurts to ask. So I sent an email to their website, and one of the guys in the band actually responded, and it was so cool. So I just want to share this with you. So in the first paragraph, he kind of said, thanks for asking, but I'm not sure it would work out because of our travel schedule. And then he said, also, I'm not a teacher. I'm not sure what to do if I were to come to your class. I'm not sure how to teach kids how to play guitar. That's not something I really know how to do. I don't really know how to read music and so forth. You know, you guys know how to read music. This guy, he doesn't know how to read those black and white dots. And he said, you know, teaching is right in your wheelhouse. That means that's something you're comfortable with. He was talking to me, and I'm a shy performer who over time has become somewhat comfortable with it. So he basically said, I'm kind of anxious about this. I don't know if I could do that. And then he says, I can stand on stage with the band and play for tens of thousands of people. You know, sometimes they get big crowds. And he said, it's not a huge deal for me to do that. But for me to get in front of your kids scares the crap out of me. So I thought that was really interesting. He said, basically, I would be scared to teach your kids, but thank you for asking. and he signed Rich, so that was really nice of him. And I responded a few times and said, no, 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 it'll be fine. I'll I'll help you. And he ghosted me. I think that's the term that you guys use now. He ghosted me. He didn't respond anymore. So I just let it go. And then about 5 years later, I found out they were going to be doing a concert at Shooting Star Casino in Mahnomen, Minnesota. So I tried sending him an email to that same address that you see at the bottom there. By the way, don't send him an email. He might be mad at me for giving out his email. Um, and he responded, uh, not to me asking him if he would come to class, but I just wanted to meet him. So he said, sure, I'll leave you a backstage pass. So that was nice of him. I actually didn't get to meet him because by the time I got backstage, he was actually gone, but I got to meet some of the other guys and it's really neat. All right, here's some things I want you to know about Kansas. Their most famous songs are Dust in the Wind, which we're going to be watching today, and a song called Carry On Wayward Son. That's another great song. They're such a good band. A few other things I want you to know. As I mentioned already, they're from the state of Kansas, and they are known as a progressive rock band. So they're not heavy metal, they're not hard rock, they're not punk rock. They are progressive rock. And that means that they are a kind of rock and roll that's maybe more classical. You know, they use that violin in their band. Maybe more sophisticated, maybe more jazz-like. It's a rock and roll that's a little more elevated in some way than normal rock and roll. Okay, that's the basic definition. Um, I think it's interesting that every time I've heard them, they basically sound exactly like their recordings. I mean, they sound so clear, so clean, and that's not true for a lot of bands. A lot of bands don't sound nearly as good in concert, but they really do. Um, and I also think it's interesting that this finger picking song we're going to watch today was actually started as an exercise. One of the guys in the band just wanted to work on his finger picking, and he made up this little exercise. And when his wife heard it, she thought, wow, honey, that sounds awesome. What song is that? And he said, well, it's not a song. And she said, well, it should be. So he brought it to the band and they made it into this song that is now a definite classic and definitely their most famous song, Dust in the Wind. Okay, if you look above me, a few other things I think we can learn from them. Number one, they're just really good at being clear. We have talked a lot this year about making sure that your notes sound clear and your chords sound clear. They are really, really good at that. And that's something we can aspire to. We can try to do the same. Number two, they're really good at watching each other. We have talked in class about how important it is to listen to each other, to stay the same speed, to stay tight. But they go a step further. They don't just listen to each other. They also kind of look at each other. In fact, one of the guys in the video bobs his head quite a bit during the video, to sort of keep the beat and kind of be the metronome for the group. And that's something we can learn from as well. And finally, I didn't mention it much during that last slide, but that guy who responded to my email, he said, you know, I've never had a teacher. My technique is bad. I don't do all the little things that a teacher would tell you should do. So a lot of the things that I've taught you are things he doesn't do, but he still sounds good. You know, it's possible to have not good technique and still sound good. It's a lot easier if you do have good technique, but as I think you'll see in the video, it's possible to sound good without great technique. All right, here are your questions for this week. Number one's the same as it always is. Number two, let's talk about this. Are you glad that we will be back to full-time school second semester? And by the way, I wrote full-time because I believe we still will be at home on Wednesdays, so it won't be full-time. But when you're in school, it'll be like all the kids, full classes. It won't be just A through K, it won't be just L through Z. I think second semester, we're going to be full-time. Are you glad about that? Why or why not? So tell me what you think about that. And as always, make sure it's a complete sentence. I am glad we're going back full-time because blah, 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 period. That's a complete sentence. All right, and of course, number three is something I always want to know from you as well. Okay, thanks.
Let's talk about the playing. This song is a finger picking song, using your fingers instead of a pick. There are two guitar players, one on the left, one on the right, who are playing finger picking on their guitars, and it just sounds amazing. The guy on the left is named Kerry, Kerry. He's got blonde hair, and he's the guy who wrote the song. He's the guy who made it up the exercise that became the song. The guy on the right is named Rich. He's got kind of curly hair, and he is the one who sent me the email telling me, ooh, I don't want to come talk to your students. That would be too scary for me, and my technique is bad. And he's kind of right. His technique isn't terrible, but it's not as good as Kerry's. So Kerry is good at doing that elephant thing. He keeps his thumb over here and the other fingers over here when he finger picks. Rich is more like this. His thumb is kind of behind the other fingers when he finger picks. He still sounds awesome, but his technique isn't correct. He would have a harder time learning new songs than someone with good technique. And it's harder to sound good. You really have to practice. So kudos to Rich for getting that figured out. So I'm going to show you how that works. By the way, I'm playing my Taylor NS32 guitar. I love this guitar. This is the first one I ever bought. Probably still my favorite. So here is how you play the finger picking pattern for the song Dust in the Wind that you're going to be watching right now. These letters tell you what fingers to use, and the lines tell you what the strings are. So this is string 5, this is string 2. I'm supposed to use my P finger, which is my thumb, on string 5. I'm supposed to use my M finger, the middle one, for string 2. And I'm supposed to do them at the same time. They're lined up vertically, so that means they happen at the same time, like this. By the way, those letters came from the Spanish words for the names of the fingers. Pulgar, indice, medio, anular. I hope I said those right. So I'm supposed to do the PM to start with. And then I'm supposed to move my P finger, my thumb, to string 4. And then I move my I finger to string 3 and pull upward. Then P is back to 5. M does string 2. P does string 4. I does string 1. All together it would go like this. Okay, that was that whole pattern. I just played the whole pattern. It didn't sound great because I wasn't holding a chord. If I grab a chord like C and play that same pattern, it sounds really neat. I could do another 5-string chord like A minor. That would also sound great. So basically almost a whole song is just that pattern over and over again with the left hand changing chords. It's not as hard as it seems. So let me kind of show you how that would work. They start with a C chord and then they change just like one finger at a time, like this. Here's the C chord. And then they pick up finger 1 to make it a C major 7. And then they add finger 4 to make it a C add 9. And then they go back to C again. Play some variations of A minor. Sometimes it's A minor, sometimes it's A add 9, sometimes it's A sus4. And I will now play the whole introduction, the first like 20 seconds of the song. Hopefully I'll get it right and you'll see how it works. The C add 9 once. Anyway, that's basically how it works. So it's time to watch that video called Dust in the Wind. The song is kind of about how some of us might kind of get full of ourselves and think our lives are more important than they really are. I don't know. That's kind of how I take the song to be. It's kind of depressing, but it's also a good reminder to not take yourself too seriously, maybe. I don't know. You see what you think. of the words and of the music, and I sure hope you like it.